I have a weird relationship with Tekken 8 because on one hand, I think it's one of the best fighting games on the market right now. You know, the graphics are incredible, the roster is huge, the gameplay is exciting, and it's exciting to watch as well. The production value is insane, and when Tekken 8 is firing on all cylinders, it's some of the most fun you could ever have in a fighting game. But on the other hand, I think it's one of the hardest fighting games for me to recommend to you guys right now. And I don't mean just to complete beginners, I mean to fighting game players in general. Even players who already play other fighting games, because as much as I enjoy Tekken 8, there are so many barriers that make it difficult for new players to truly get into. And honestly, I think it's one of Tekken's biggest problems. Not because it's a bad game, but because it's a great game that's incredibly difficult to learn. But if you guys don't know me by now, I'm Mr. Frosty Flames. We do anything gaming news, reviews, playthroughs, analysis, and we do it in a chill way with no over editing BS. So if you like that style of content, just be sure to hit that sub button and join the Mr. Frosty Flames Legion. We're closing in on 2K subs, so just join me on that journey and enlist in the army. Anyways, let's get back to the video. So before people start typing angry comments, no, this is not a Tekken 8 hate video. I've already talked about some of the game's controversial mechanics before in my channel on previous videos. You know, stuff like the aggression, the heat system, the guessing situations, the frustration. We've covered those topics. But today isn't about whether Tekken 8 is good, because I think it is good, very good actually, one of the better Tekken games. The problem is that being a good game and being easy to recommend are two completely different things, and Tekken 8 is a perfect example of that. Let's say a friend asks me, hey, should I try Tekken 8? The answer depends on who that person is, because if they never played a fighting game before, good luck. Tekken is very overwhelming. You have dozens of characters, thousands of moves, very unique mechanics and complex movement, and you have matchup knowledge on top of that, and a giant mountain of information that the game expects you to learn eventually. Now let's compare that to something like, say, Street Fighter. In Street Fighter, most characters have a manageable move list. You could usually understand what killed you, you could identify mistakes more easily. The game sort of teaches you concepts in a more straightforward way, and Tekken doesn't always do that. Sometimes you could lose and genuinely have no clue what just happened. But here's the crazy thing about it all. Even experienced fighting game players struggle with Tekken. They say Tekken is the hardest out of the big three, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, and Tekken, to learn. If you're good at Street Fighter, that doesn't automatically make you good at Tekken. If you're good at, say, Guilty Gear, that doesn't automatically make you good at Tekken. If you're good at Mortal Kombat, you're still gonna go get destroyed when you first jump into Tekken, because Tekken is almost its own language. The skills transfer somewhat, like you could say the fighting game fundamental skills transfer, but not nearly as much as people think. I've seen players who are incredibly talented in other fighting games get humbled immediately by Tekken. Some are very great, say like Ninja Killer. He was a Mortal Kombat master, perhaps one of the best, and now he's one of the best NA Tekken players. But that journey doesn't happen with everyone. Most players are just gonna jump into Tekken and get destroyed, and honestly, that's part of what makes this game special, but it is also part of what makes it difficult to recommend. And one of Tekken's biggest strengths is its roster. The game has so many characters. Like if you jump on it for the first time and you see the character selection screen, you're gonna see so many characters, you might be overwhelmed on who to choose at first. Everybody could find someone they like, but that strength becomes a weakness for new players, because every character feels like learning a completely different game. You finally learn how to fight one character, then another shows up and destroys you with moves you've never seen before, then another, then again. The learning process never really stops with Tekken 8, and for some players that's exciting, and for others it's really exhausting. And this is why I find Street Fighter 6 easier to recommend, not because it's a truly better game on all aspects, but because it's easy to understand. The game has excellent tutorials, World Tour mode helps out new players, the drive system is easier to grasp, the game teaches fundamentals well, the tutorials are really good. You know, if you're going through the combo tutorials, it helps you get a grasp on each individual character. You could jump into Street Fighter and feel like you're making progress fairly quickly, but in Tekken, progress feels very slow, often slower than other fighting games. Sometimes you'll play for hours and still feel completely lost, and that's not necessarily a flaw, but it absolutely affects who I recommend the game to. And the same goes for, say, Guilty Gear fans. Now don't get me wrong, Guilty Gear has crazy mechanics, has crazy characters and crazy visuals, but the onboarding process feels smoother. The game communicates itself better, characters are expressive, systems are easier to understand, the game sort of feels welcoming a little bit. Tekken often feels like it throws you into the ocean and tells you to learn how to swim. Again, some players love that, and most players just quit immediately or just don't take the game serious enough to just actually dedicate their time to. And here's the thing though, once Tekken clicks, it's incredible, and this is why so many people stick with it. The depth of the game is ridiculous. The skill expression is amazing. You know, when you learn how to master the movement, it feels satisfying. Improvement feels meaningful. Few fighting games are as rewarding as Tekken. The problem is getting to that point, because the road to that payoff is much longer than most fighting games, and not everybody has the patience for it. I think the biggest reason Tekken 8 is hardest to recommend from all the other fighting games is simple. It demands a lot from the player. You have to put in a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of studying different matchups and studying different characters, a lot of losing, and that's okay. Not every game needs to be easy. Not every game needs to appeal to everyone, but when someone asks me what fighting game they should start with, I'm probably gonna recommend either Street Fighter 6 first, maybe Guilty Gear, maybe even Mortal Kombat, depending on the person if they want a casual game, because those games are easier to get into. Tekken is the game I recommend once everyone knows they want to commit to a single fighting game. And with everything I've said, I feel like Tekken 8 has a retention problem. I think this is where Tekken loses a lot of people, not because the game is bad or the gameplay is bad, but because the game asks players to suffer through a huge learning curve before they start having consistent fun. Think about it. A brand new player jumps online, they get hit by moves they've never seen before, they lose to strings they don't understand, they fight characters they never practice against, and before they could even learn from that experience, they're already in the next match getting destroyed by someone completely different. That's a lot to ask from somebody who's just trying to enjoy a video game after work. Street Fighter has this problem too, every fighting game does, but Tekken feels amplified because of how much knowledge the game expects from you, and the result is that a lot of players simply quit before they ever reach the fun part, which is very unfortunate, because once you finally understand Tekken, it becomes one of the most rewarding fighting games ever made, like I was saying before. The problem is getting people to stay long enough to reach that point, because if a game takes 50 or 100 hours before somebody starts feeling comfortable, that's a huge commitment, and I think that's one of the biggest reasons Tekken 8 is harder to recommend than other fighting games. So no, this isn't me saying Tekken 8 is bad, it's far from it. I think it's one of the best fighting games available today, but being one of the best doesn't automatically make it one of the easiest to recommend, because Tekken asks a lot from its players, and while that depth is exactly why fans love the series, it's also the reason why so many people bounce off of it. Tekken 8 is amazing, but sometimes the best games are also the hardest to recommend. But that's just my take on it. Let me know what you guys think down below. Would you guys ever recommend Tekken 8 to your friends? Say like your friend asks you something and he wants to know if he should get into Tekken 8 and he's never played a fighting game before. Would you recommend Tekken 8 to them, or would you recommend another fighting game to them? And also, I want to see who's still playing Tekken 8. I know Kunimitsu's coming out, so let me know if you're enjoying her. Anyways, this is going to be for today's video, guys. Thank you all for watching. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe to join the Mr. Frosty Flames Legion. Mr. Frosty Flames out. Ciao.